Computer. All right. Hey, Loretta, how are you?
I am doing the best I can, Jamal. How are you?
I'm doing great. I am doing great. I'm so happy to finally connect with a human being and to have a little conversation and pretend like I'm having a lunch date.
I know. Isn't that fun?
Yes, this is awesome. And
Although I'm ready for some serious human contact, though, I might be beyond ready. So when I'm finally unleashed, it may not be pretty.
oh, I think you're not the only one. I mean, I think all of us are going to probably, when you get this, like being in Detroit, and we'll do the introductions in a minute because hopefully people will watch this and want to know who you are. I surely want them to know who you are. But you're from, you live in Detroit right now. And of course, I lived in Chicago when I'm from Detroit. And we know how this is. Like in Detroit, up north, when the summer comes around, everybody explodes and is outside all the time because we've been cooped up
That's
so
right.
long, right? And it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be like, oh my God, we can actually go out now. We can actually go hang out with people. We can go to restaurants. We can go to bars. We can go, do whatever we want to do. I think people are going to explode and go crazy.
You're right.
So let's, for the sake of everybody that might watch this video, because what I was hoping to do was inspire people to connect with folks in different ways and to not feel down around this whole idea that you can't go have lunch dates and you can't go have happy hours. People doing virtual happy hours. So I figured, why not do a virtual lunch date and just get on the phone, on the Skype, the Zoom, whatever, with somebody and have your lunch and whatever you're going to do for lunch. And to enjoy the fact that we're at home, to have a martini lunch or boozy lunch or whatever you want to call it. So we can talk about that in a minute. But before we do all that, I want to introduce you to everybody. So this is my friend Loretta Bush, who is the president and CEO of Authority Health in Michigan, headquartered in Detroit, but they serve all of Wayne County and probably are serving all of Michigan right now because I know it's really hard up there. But Loretta, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
All right. So, Jamal, I always enjoy connecting with you. So this is a pleasure. And as Jamal said, I'm the CEO of Authority Health. And Authority Health, our major line of business is that we have the second largest teaching health center in the nation. So we have a residency program that has 71 residents rotating in internal medicine, family medicine, psychiatry, and pediatrics. And in addition to that, we operate 2 of our own continuity clinics in family medicine and 1 in pediatrics. For myself, this is a joy to be working in this area. Medical education is a new endeavor for me because, as Jamal knows, most of my time has been spent in governmental public health, which everybody right now, public health is like on everybody's lips. So hopefully when all this is over, we don't go back to being, like in the background and people going, what is public health? Well, right now you can see exactly public health in action, right? So I was the health officer for Wayne County and also the health officer for the city of Detroit. Was health officer for Wayne County during H1N1, which now pales in comparison to this. But many of you might remember the panic and the response that was required by public health during H1N1, and now you see public health in action again. But I believe Jamal and I probably met when I was the AIDS and STD administrator for the state of Michigan. So I always tell people HIV and AIDS was certainly not my first love, because I thought coming out of school that I was going to do maternal and child health care. And then, this thing started happening that we now call HIV, that we called a lot of things in the beginning. And I spent 23 years of my life doing that work here in the state of Michigan at the federal level. And I also did 2 temporary tours in Ethiopia, East Africa, to help them to respond to what was then the growing HIV crisis then. So here we are, and here I am.
Man, and what's most interesting about this, and one of the reasons why I wanted to do a video with you first, to do this virtual lunch with you first, which I'm calling the virtual leaders lunch, is because we have worked together. So not only are we good friends, we have been through the fire on
Yeah.
several occasions, and have worked together in healthcare and in public health. And even when you were running IPH in Detroit, and whoa, those were some crazy times when you guys basically took over all of the public health functions for the city of Detroit while they were going through bankruptcy and crisis, and you guys stepped up and built a whole new organization to serve that entire city, and nobody went untreated or uncared for. And in fact, I can be a personal testament to the fact that the folks who were working there loved working at IPH, because I got to be your COO for a while. So I got to see how happy people were working for you, because it was absolutely a phenomenal, magical organization. So I've had a chance to see you from really a lot of different angles, as an employee, as a colleague, as a friend, as a lawyer, over all these years. So this is the perfect one to kick off this virtual leaders lunch.
Yeah, it's been an amazing relationship with you, and definitely, we have to mention IPH, because the Institute for Population Health, because that was a incredible point in time. I don't know if we'll ever see anything like that again. From the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I still run into the employees that we had there at IPH, and exactly what you said is true. They still come up to me this day and say what a wonderful experience that was, and how much they enjoyed coming to work. Because even when the jobs that you do are really hard, a lot of times it's not so much the work itself. It's kind of like that environment and the things that make it harder or can make it better. And the IPH experience, because we were able to build that and bring the best of the best that we know about creating a healthy work environment, while the work was hard and the times were hard, because as you mentioned, Detroit was going through a bankruptcy, right? And doing this whole new thing and saying, well, we'll shepherd and take over public health while you go through this recovery, was all new. Whenever anything is new, and even though it may be the right thing to do, it doesn't mean everybody's going to get behind you and say, "Woo, yay, you're a wonderful person." Sometimes people think, what's the motivation, right? What are they trying to get out of it? And I think the reason why people enjoyed it so much is because we weren't trying to get anything out of it other than serving the people in Detroit. And it was an exciting time. And then, the thing that you didn't mention, Jamal, is that once the city of Detroit was able to take the public health services back, that didn't mean that IPH, Institute for Population Health, went away.
That's
You
right.
helped to put IPH into its next phase, which was to become a FQHC lookalike. And now it recently applied last year and is a full FQHC. So, I think that the lesson that many people probably learn from that is that just because you start off one way doing an incredible line of business, and you continue to teach me this, Jamal. Every time I say, "Oh, Jamal, I think this is going to be my last stop," you come up with something else new and exciting that I might want to consider. So certainly we did the same thing for IPH, and now it's serving the community in a much different way, but still a much needed way.
Yeah, no, I'm a big believer. Like, our, as Les Brown always says, you have not seen the final chapter of your story yet. It is still being written. History is being made, but it is also being written by those who have imagination and determination, and you've got both.
Well, thank
So I know that firsthand. And that was, man, I look back and think about that experience, and, what a wild, amazing time. I know it was hard. I was there for a big chunk of it. I know it was
you.
hard. And I know it was hard for you to move on to your next journey, because you loved IPH and you put your blood, sweat, and tears into it. I saw it every day. But what an amazing experience to get a call from the mayor, the then sitting mayor of the city, to say, hey, we're getting ready to go into bankruptcy. I don't want to see the people of my city in any class, but particularly the people that are underserved and underprivileged, to go without access to health care and any of the public health services, would you mind putting together an organization that we could use to run these services while we go through this really unprecedented time of having the largest municipal bankruptcy in the history of the United States? Would you be willing to do that, Loretta? And you say, yeah, I'll quit my job and I'll get an entirely new organization and I'll go get some people to come work in it with me. And we'll take over the entire public health function of one of the country's largest cities. Yep, sure, I'll do that.
It was an incredible time, wasn't it, Jamal?
It was. And
Yeah.
what a testament to your leadership that he would ask you to do that.
Well, that was an incredible mayor. Not to say that there aren't many amazing, incredible mayors, but certainly an incredible mayor at the time that had a vision that, to do something different, which is always a risk, right? Especially with long-standing organizations or systems like government and things like that. And probably the same is true in law, Jamal, that there's many things that are kind of like the tried and true way of doing things. And when someone, has the vision to say, oh, why don't we try something different? It can be very exciting, but scary as heck.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so, we've done the introductions and some of the formalities, but I know you too well and too long to stick talking business. So,
that's right.
The whole point of this virtual leaders lunch is to really just check in with people that I care about, leaders I respect, folks I want the rest of the world to know about, and certainly everybody in my network to know about, and just see how you're doing, how you're going through this process, how you're coping, and also to share that information with other folks, because I know a lot of people already in my network who admire you and who trust and respect your judgment, and are probably dying to know what Loretta Bush thinks we ought to be doing right now. But there are a bunch of people that want to know, how to cope and lead through a crisis like this when you're sitting in one of the epicenters of the crisis, like Detroit. My hometown is being hit very, very hard. I've had a couple of friends die already who were my age. I've had several family members get sick and be hospitalized and all that stuff. And you're leading one of the largest healthcare organizations in the county, in Wayne County right now, during the time of this crisis. So first question for you, Loretta, how are you coping?
Yeah, so I tell you that very first week that we were in shelter in place or stay home, stay safe, I'm just going to be honest, as you know that I will be, that first week, not very well. And it was exactly what you might think. I just went into overdrive, and I went from my normal 8 to 10 hour work day to about 15 to 18 hours of work. It was just like, let's just go. We don't know, trying to get out in front of things and everything. So probably just to say that that's kind of normal to start, but that's not the kind of pace that you need to keep. It's just not healthy. And as a leader, if you start to get sick, overwhelmed, or just get too doggone tired, it's just not going to be a good look for the folks who are looking to you to help try to normalize things. So by the second week, I was real clear with myself and with my team that this is going to be our new normal for a while, that it's a marathon, not a sprint, and that everything's not going to be solved today. And I'll just give you an example. It took forever for a organization our size to be able to even get PPE, and we were seeing patients still every day. Now that's scary as heck, but when you're, competing with large health systems, and even they couldn't get it, so the next thing was just honest communication, but it wasn't always about work. Just like what you said, I tried to make sure that, periodically I would send my staff just a message about, what's going on and how are you feeling, and reminding them that the employee assistance programs were still available, and trying to share with them, some hope and some insights about what we were doing. Then I made sure that I had a Zoom meeting like this, an all staff meeting, so that we could kind of see each other and get brought up to date. You know, one of our staff had a baby in the midst of this, and it's somebody who had been really struggling. Her and her partner were struggling to have a child, and this is their first child. And so we got together and spent some time just talking about that we have a new baby in the Authority Health family, which, you know, from my perspective, is a perfect example that God intends for life to go on, right? So in the midst of this, people are having babies, and, you know, they're just enjoying life. And, you know, I didn't want us to just get caught up on meeting to talk about, you know, the death toll and the number of new cases. We met and talked about, you know, babies and, you know, what's going on in your life and things like that. And I also shared with my staff some of the things that that I'm doing that's off work time, like stuff like this. And you and I had a virtual cocktail party one night,
Yes.
Jamal, that was fabulous. I loved it and I needed it. And then this weekend, we're doing a virtual karaoke. And then also I joined in on your watch party with that excellent singer. What was her name? What is her name?
Griffin.
Yeah. Oh my God, that was wonderful. She took us to places, didn't she? I mean, she, as I remember, she did everything from the nighttime is the right time to be with the one you love. And then next thing I know, we were like, I love the Lord.
Yes.
She took us kinds of places, which is just what's needed for times like these.
She put together a whole virtual concert in her basement with appropriate social distancing. She even had her husband tell everybody how he had measured, made sure everybody was 6 feet apart. They were, most of them had a mask on, the ones that were not singing. She, of course, couldn't have one on. And put on a whole virtual concert for her fans and to really raise some money for her band members who, if you're in the music industry, you don't make any money if you can't go out and perform, like, especially if you're not a recording artist with, you know, platinum albums that are paying you royalties and you know, you getting residuals off of while you're sitting on your butt. But the beautiful thing is that she did it for the right purpose. She did it to raise money for her band, but she also did it to like bring some joy and some laughter and some song into everybody's heart and just let everybody have a good time. And we did that.
We did that, and it was so needed. And as I recall, it was like midweek, like a Tuesday or Wednesday or something, right? So it was like a midweek refresher. So it's kind of like, you know, when you're not on lockdown, you know, I try to tell people, don't just live for the weekend, right? You know, but I have this kind of midweek refresher.
Uh-oh, something froze.
I have to say, but no matter how tempting it is, and as you talked about, it's starting to get warm here in Michigan, and we are like spring and summer fiends because it's so short. So it's going to be 60 degrees today. And I can already feel myself. I have to remind myself, nope, you can only go to that deck, and that's about it. But we would all be running the Belle Isle and already trying to get out and socialize, but that's going to be the hard part.
One of the blessings, as you know, I moved down here to Austin about 2 years ago after living in Chicago for 17 years, and just being born and raised in Detroit. I just got sick of the cold. And so one of the blessings of living down here is, like, you know, it's nice all the time. So I don't have that normal urgency around nice days where you're like, oh my God, I better get out and enjoy it because this is not going to happen again. In fact, today it's supposed to be like 90 degrees. So we're kind of like, not ready for that.
Wow. So you just put my little 60 degrees to shame.
Oh, I celebrate your 60 with you because, again, I was born and raised in Detroit. I lived in Chicago for 17 years. I know those 60-degree days when you get them, especially in March, but even in April, you get those nice days instead of snowstorms or ice storms or just gray, cold, whatever. You celebrate those days. People are out with shorts on, windows down, partying deck. Yeah, it's like a picnic day, a 4th of July.
Yep. Yeah, yep. That's exactly right. So going into this, that's gonna be a big change for us. And probably it seems like the shelter in place or the stay home say may even get extended. So we're gonna be way into when we should be out there celebrating and thankful that there's no more black ice out there. So for those of you who are listening, who are in warm weather states, born and raised, and have never, don't know anything about black ice, you need to Google it. It is the most craziest thing. And I know you don't miss that black ice, Jamal.
I don't. It's crazy and it's dangerous. And I had it. I remember it was April 17th, 2018. I said, look, I filed my taxes or the extension. I can't remember if I filed them on time or not, but the deadline has passed and we're having a snowstorm. And this is not right. Like Easter's come, we're having a snowstorm. I got to go. I couldn't deal with this. And of course, the black ice and the snow and the waiting on the snow to melt. And trying to walk kids to school and it's like
Right.
snowing and freezing. I was like, I just can't take anymore. And so April the 29th, 2018, literally 12 days later, I moved to Austin, Texas.
I know. Well, that's one of the many things that I love about you, Jamal. It's like when you make a decision to do something, you're going to do it. It's not that you're not thoughtful and, deliberate and all of that, but no one can say that you are a procrastinator or, have to, can't make a decision. Because I think I was probably one of the first ones to say it. You going where? Why are you going to Austin? Austin? And he's like, oh, no, can't take that cold weather no more. Don't want to do it. And then you were up out of there.
Yeah, I was. And luckily, lined the ducks up as I needed to, was able to port my practice, open an office down here, sell my place, all the stuff I needed to do, buy a place here. It all came together the way it was supposed to. But, I think, and that's one of the things I want to talk about, like for us as leaders, there's this saying in the spiritual tradition, right? About faith, right? And some people say, if I can see it, I'll believe it. And then the reverse is actually the thing that's true. If I believe it, I can see it, right? You have to have faith first. It's the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. It's not proof of what you already know. It's the proof of the stuff that you don't know, right?
That's right.
And as leaders, all of us have to have vision.
Have faith. If you see it, you don't have to have faith for that, right?
Exactly.
You got to have faith for the unseen and what you and the Creator can create and move together. And but that's the thing. You and other leaders who make it happen know that you have to be right there. We definitely know faith and being able to see it, but then also being able to get up and make those moves and be, of course, be led spiritually and emotionally and all of that, but to be a partner in creating, writing that next chapter.
Which is what we as leaders do. I have a bunch of friends who are in leadership positions that struggle with this idea that they have to try something that maybe they don't know if it's going to work, or they don't know how to do it, or they never seen it before. So they want to get all these experts to tell them it can be done and make all these plans and risk calculate and stress test and all this stuff before they actually decide they're going to do it. I'm like, that's not leading. That's managing, perhaps, because managers do that all the time. But leaders, what we do is we say, I see something nobody else sees. I'm going to make it happen, even when nobody else says, I think you should do it, or you could do it, or I don't know how to do it. You're going to make it happen. And that's what we do as leaders. We lead. That's why you're a leader. You're the one in the front.
It's true leadership. Well, and you're right there too, Jamal. You're right there.
Yeah.
That's how it's done. That's how it's done. You can sit safely, and as you say, you can sit safely and just manage things day to day. Or you can vision, envision, implement, make it happen, and lead the way. And I've found that in doing that, life is just so much more exciting, even when there's mistakes along the way, right? Because if everything has gone smoothly all the time, you probably haven't tried many innovative or new things. But what the heck, if you stumble and fall, as long as you get back up and keep moving, it's all good. Yeah. And I think for the most part that history is going to be kind for all of us who, you know, who tried new things, did some great things, had some fumbles along the way, and but then, you know, left a legacy and a positive mark on.
Hey, I agree 100%. So let's shift gears. What's your work life like now? I want to talk a little bit about what your work life like. How are you working now? Like, you look great. You always look great. Although I know you well enough to know that you probably don't always dress up like this to work from home.
No, not always.
You working from home. So, so what is it like, you know, being the CEO of this major enterprise in the epicenter, one of the epicenters of this virus, but you're kind of working, I'm sure maybe you're going to the office sometimes, working from home, other times going to what is it like working, and how do you manage like lunches and taking care of yourself in this strange environment? Because I know you're used to going into an office every day. You worked in government. You're used to going into an office, and
that's right.
You know, and having staff meetings with everybody in front of you. And so how are you adjusting to this new paradigm of working from home and still trying to lead through a crisis?
Yeah, so you're right. I'm used to going in, and I have, even though we're in a stay home, stay safe, I still have 2 medical practices that's open. So I have gone out and been in there, but even with that, honestly, we've been trying to do so much more telemedicine now, Jamal, so that nobody goes out. Not only the staff, but also the patients, because every time they come out and come into the clinic and in the lobby and all of that, that's a risk for them as well. So if there's one benefit for us, probably what would have taken 6 to 8 more months of talking about telehealth and telemedicine, we talked about that for about 2 hours, and then, you know, implemented it in 3 days, because it's just, so we cut through all of that. Let's look at 16 different kind and all of that kind of stuff, and is this the right thing to do? So that was one of the things that made life really good. So the doctors, the clinical staff, the administrators, more and more were able to come outside of the outside walls, where you could, you know, potentially become COVID positive and still be able to serve the patients and see patients. So that's been really exciting. Also for me, because I am used to like a lot of structure and all of that, once we were all set and up and going, the first week, again, I probably drove my staff crazy, because it was like, okay, there's going to be a meeting at this time, a meeting at this time, and a meeting at another time. But afterwards, I think they appreciated it, because that first week was so intense for me, and then thereby for them, that we were able to set everything up such that now I can have that same kind of level of trust that I have when we're all going into the office. Because of course, I'm not sitting there hawking everything that they do, even then. We are very fortunate that for the most part, the things that we do are not affected, we're not going to be affected economically. So I do want to say that, you know, for us, and, you know, my heart really bleeds for the leaders who have had to furlough and lay off lots of folks, even though I know it seems like the government is trying to come up with stimulus checks and this and you know, the unemployment being extended. You know, I know from people that I've talked to, you know, just trying to apply and getting answers, and the delays, you know, when you need food and to pay your mortgage now. So for us, we have not really experienced that yet. So that part has been really good. And for the most part, most of the work that we can do, that we have to do, can be done remotely. You know, the other thing though, now that I'm talking about that, one of the things that we did find is that we have like our Albert Schweitzer Fellowship. And those young people, they were to be graduating right now. And also our residents, we have a big graduation for them in June, right? So these are also huge disappointments. You know, you've been a resident for 3 years, and then you've been a Albert Schweitzer fellow for a year, and you look forward to the big pomp and circumstance and the that rite of passage, so to speak. And we talk about it, for like high schoolers and maybe undergrad, but there's other folks who are looking forward to big celebrations. So we've been looking into how to make those happen remotely as well. So I said, don't cancel the keynote speaker. Find out if the keynote speaker will be willing to do this. Let's have that whole Schweitzer class or the residents graduating class. See if we can do it by Zoom, still have the keynote speaker. And we're still trying to figure out, this is the question that I posed to them, the money that we were gonna spend on the venue with the food and the drink and all of that, can that be repurposed in some way to still reward those folks who have given us 3 years of their life in terms of the residency and a year of their life for our Albert Schweitzer Fellows. So we're still trying to figure that one out, but why not do this? Because if not, you don't want everything to feel like a letdown for people who have accomplished monumental things this year. And and now have this. You don't want this to be what they think about when they think about the end of their fellowship or their residency program. So that's kind of what's going on here.
Well, now I know you well enough to know you well enough to say this. That's about everybody else, as classic Loretta would do. Taking care of everybody else. You're also a mother and a wife and a caregiver and all these other things. So you're doing exactly what a lot of folks I know like you are doing. But that was not a lick of anything about Loretta. How is Loretta doing, and how is Loretta coping and taking care of herself? Because there are women and men who are looking up to people like you who want to know how they can get through this crisis. And I want to know, because I know you got some good coping skills. I know we've already talked about one of them, this martini lunch thing, which back in the day, it used to be a normal thing.
That's right.
Have a drink, and then suddenly, I don't remember when it happened, maybe about 20 years or so, I don't know, something happened. They started saying, don't go to lunch and drink if you're working. I think because folks were getting drunk, I think they were
right.
Alcohol and making bad choices and going back to work. But there's a bunch of us professional people. That's one of the things I like about being independent now, or having my own firm and my own businesses. I don't have to answer to anybody else. I take care of myself and I account for myself. I can have a glass of wine with my lunch, particularly right now when it's all stressful. I'm working in kind of a chaotic environment, dealing with a lot of stress. I can have a glass with my meal to kind of help me settle down. Red wine is antioxidant infused and can help do some good stuff in my body and not get wasted and carry on my day. So that's the way I'm coping. But I want to know about you and how you're coping. What is Loretta doing to take care of herself through this process?
I can tell you a few things. So it actually starts every morning with, even though I don't necessarily like dress like this every morning, but for me, getting up, getting a shower, and this may sound like real girly, but I'm gonna like say it anyway. I get up, I get dressed, I put on some makeup, I put on some clothes, and I still put on perfume. I was telling, my friends and everything, it's like I wear perfume or a cologne every day. It's just like part of, who I am. It's how I show up. So I make sure I do those things. And, I think the thing that many of us found out, because sometimes people don't realize how privileged they are. You always think about the privilege of other people. You don't think about how privileged you are, right? Until you realize that you don't know how to do your own hair anymore, that you thought your feet looked pretty like that on their own, like you had naturally pretty feet, and then you realize, 2-3 weeks into a stay at home that you don't, that's because you had the privilege of going and getting a manicure and a pedicure.
Right.
So that's kind of one of the things I do, Fortunately, even though I claim that privilege too, but I asked, how do I retwist my hair? How do I wash it? How do I do my nails and keep my eye? So, so that's a big thing for me, even though I know it's a Facebook joke going around that we're about 2-3 weeks before everybody gonna see how they really look and want a divorce and all that kind of stuff. But if it makes you feel good to, you know, to do your trappings and put on your uniform for work. And we know that a uniform doesn't just mean, you know, a policeman's outfit or that kind of stuff. We know what our uniform is, whether that's a dress or a jacket. And now you want to be comfortable at home and all of that, but you know what works for you. And so I try to do that so that I don't feel like, you know, I'm getting all scuzzy and depressed. We know, you know what I'm saying, Jamal? I don't want to get scuzzy and depressed. Now, the other thing I tried implementing last week was two walks a day, because when you really can really work remotely a lot, you will find yourself, I will find myself, I'll stick back to me, Jamal. I will find myself working way too much. And I got up one day and I realized that I had to like kind of like push up, because I had been sitting in front of the screen literally for hours and hours. And I didn't realize even how much when you go into the office, you got to get up to walk down the hall to the kitchen, or get up and walk down the hall to the bathroom, or to talk to somebody. But I was finding myself going from one virtual meeting to the other. And I went to stand up and it was like, ooh, wow, this don't feel good. So I try to do 2 walks a day. Now, I'm saying trying because if you remember in Michigan, and maybe even in Austin, this is like allergy season. Okay. So I went out there walking and I came back and my chest felt tight and I was huffing and puffing. So, you know, I'm like, oh my God, I got the COVID. Wait a minute. You know, then I realized you walking out there with all those trees and all of that stuff. So, I don't know how that's gonna work, but you know, I'm trying to hook up with a friend. She's a personal trainer, and see if she wants to do like an online virtual Zumba with us, and then we cash app her or something, because you know, that's probably one of those other things I've been saying to friends jokingly, but you know, it's funny, not so funny. We shouldn't all come out of the house later and all need bariatric surgery, right?
Right.
Yeah. So the other thing I've been trying to do is do some healthy snacks and stuff. Now that doesn't mean that I didn't go and get my big bag of, it was a mixed bag, literally, of the little mini chocolates. So it had Twix and Snickers and Milky Ways, and they were all a little mini. So I immediately went and got that just in case I needed that. But then I also got like the veggie chips, and I went and got some avocados, and I got them so that they could ripen over time while we shelter in place. So I could peel them and make guacamole and do that. So I made it the other day. Ron said it was fabulous and that he licked the bowl. And when I came in there, I think he really had licked the bowl. I don't think he was joking, because it looked like it had been licked.
I believe Ron licked the bowl.
Yes. Yeah, you know him. He licked the bowl.
Ron is your husband. And yes, I know him. And, you know, if he said he licked the bowl, he probably did. Plus, if you made it, it probably was really good. It was worthy of licking the bowl, because also you're a great cook and a consummate entertainer. So, yeah, I believe he probably did lick the bowl.
He is enjoying me being available to do those more complicated meals that we usually just do on the weekend. Now I can decide, okay, we want one of these complicated meals that takes some serious thinking and cooking. I'm gonna shut this light off behind me because it's getting hot. Wait a minute, there we go. It's gonna be a little bit cooler now, because I think
you just reached out into the streets of Miami because you got your virtual background. I think that's Miami back there. You just reached into like one of the, you know, I don't know what boulevard, Biscayne Boulevard or something.
Something like that. Yeah, I love these. That's another thing I've been doing, Jamal, because I'm spending so much time on Zoom. I do it for myself as well as for the other Zoom participants, because they never know where I'm going to show up. Sometimes I'm floating in space. Sometimes I have the San Francisco Bridge behind me. You know, it's just, they just, you know, it's, where in the world is Loretta?
Oh yeah, that would be a fun little video conference game to play. Like, yeah, where in the world are we on Zoom today? Because yeah, I got a couple of virtual backgrounds. I didn't load mine today. I'm actually in my guest house because I don't have no guests. So I decided my coping skill. I like to go places. I have an office. I don't necessarily go to it that much anyway, but I like to at least go somewhere. And so at least coming to the guest house, I feel like when I leave the main house. I'm like,
Right.
okay, I'm leaving home and I come over here and I'm at work. And so this is like become my office. And I even have a door, not that any clients are ever coming over, but like in theory, I'm like, this is my door where folks can come to
Yes.
see me. And I got my own kitchen, all my own stuff. So I bring all my work snacks and everything work related is in here.
Yeah.
And all my fun stuff is at home.
Well, that's good. I like that strategy. Now, what are you doing about your gym time or workout time? Because I know you love to work out. So how are you managing that?
It's killing me. I've learned something through this experience, which is not some of this is probably not a shocker to you because you know me well. I'm a people person.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of an exhibitionist. Actually, I'm a lot of an exhibitionist, and so
Yes, you are, Jamal.
there's some people that like to watch. They're people watchers and voyeurs, and then some that put on the show, the entertainers and all that stuff. And I'm definitely one of those people. And so I do work out because it's good for my body and it's good for my health, and I wanted my body to be healthier, and I wanted to be healthier and all that stuff. But a lot of it is because I think I enjoyed the people and I enjoyed the performance aspect of going to the gym,
Yeah.
trying to, people watching and you doing something other folks are doing. Like that quid pro quo, that exchange of people like-minded, like energy, really drove me a lot. That's why I think I went to the gym so much, because now that I'm not able to go to the gym, I still get up every day. I usually
Yeah.
go for a run or a bike ride. I may go for a really long walk. I occasionally do some calisthenics. I might do some push-ups and pull-ups. I even bought some Bowflex Select System weights, so I have some
Oh,
dumbbells so I can lift some weights. And I turn my garage into a gym. So like my garage is like, I got a bench in there, but I just don't like it.
yeah.
I
I was
don't
gonna
like
say
it.
you got all the toys, but you don't have the people.
Right. I don't have the people, and I see other neighbors when I go for walks and runs, they're working out in their garage. And I'm like, man, I wish your garage was next to my garage. I wish you lived across the street from me so we could all be working out at the same time. I need that people interaction. I like the eye candy. I like the motivation. I like, like when I feel like I'm ready to give up, I see somebody else and they're still going at it. And I'm like, oh, you can't quit. Like I need that connection. So it's been a challenge for me to keep up with my workout routine, but I have been kind to myself, and
Okay.
I've been telling myself to treat this the way I do when I go on vacation. When I go on vacation, I work out occasionally, but I give
Okay.
myself permission to not work out so hard,
Yeah.
and not work out at all if halfway through, because usually halfway through the vacation, I get to the point where like, okay, I'm having too much fun. I don't feel like it. And I just make up for it when I get home. So I'm looking at like, I'm going to do the best I can through this process, try to maintain rather than
Yeah.
gain weight,
Yeah.
whatever. And then when we get out of this, then I will have all my motivation back. And like you said, for me, the next first time I go to the gym, it will be like, one of those unseasonably warm days up north when you're like, I'm
Yeah.
busting out of here. I'm going to soak it all up and love it up, and I'll make up for it then.
Right. Sounds like a good strategy, Jamal.
But it's tough. I mean, this experience is teaching us all a lot of things about ourselves that we might have taken for granted or never even bothered to think about, because you never had to think about not having it or why you were motivated by certain things. Now
Right.
that you don't have anything, it's becoming really apparent for me, how much all these other things matter to me. Like just being able to go out the door, even walking kids to school, and like just being able to like speak to neighbors and say hi to the teachers and have a good day and thank you for what you, just the ability to do that. I went today to go pick up, Austin just released they're really behind, their first at home learning packet, which is
Oh, wow.
printed, which is printed out. But all these instructions on different apps and websites to log into, whatever. So he just released them and told us we all had to come up to the school and go pick them up. And I was so excited. I've never been so excited. Go up to the school to pick up something from the teacher in my life.
I know.
I got to say hi and say hey, and even though at a safe distance, everybody's got on masks, and they're like on one side of the table, we're on the other side of the table, and they're like, it's all stacked out, so they don't have to. But it just made us like say, hey, how are you? See people, see other parents coming and going. I crave and need that connection and that interaction with human beings.
Yeah, I get it. And I think you're right. We're all gonna really come to understand ourselves better, because I really didn't think that I was one who really needed a lot of that. And but right now I'm starting to feel that I may not be on the far end of the spectrum, but I'm not way over on the other end where I thought I was, because I always tell people, I say, I'm an introvert living an extrovert life. I tell people that, right? Not many people, but now I'm telling a lot of people, right? But I'm finding that I'm probably more mid-ground than I would have ever imagined. It's just like you described. It's like, okay, wouldn't it be nice to? I really like that husband and wife that owns the cleaners. I'm missing talking to them, because when I realize that when I go in there, it's not just give me my clothes and take your money. We have a conversation, about the kids and about travel and about, oh, I wonder what they doing, and that kind of thing. So we are going to learn a lot about ourselves, and my fear is, well, let me put it in the positive. I hope that the things that we've learned during this time, that all of the good stuff that's happening, that we keep doing it, and that we don't kind of just like going to slide back to business as usual and stuff like that, and taking some things for granted. I know one of the things that really I'm excited about, I only have the one son, right? I got the, 4 beautiful granddaughters. I got my one son, and he got married really early, right? Like 18, she was 17. I really wasn't quite ready to give my son up quite that early, but okay. But, and in typical fashion, when he took a wife, I'm still his mom and everything, but she gets more of his time than I do, right? So now during this time, I'm getting all these texts from my son. He's calling me and everything, and it's not for money or advice, or it's just kind of like to hang out over the phone and everything. So, I have to admit, I'm really enjoying that. Now, we're going to see what happens when he, goes back to work and he can go out to play and everything. But I'll have to remind him, remember all those phone calls and texts that I was getting from you? Maybe we should continue that.
That is a great point. One of the things that another thing I've learned from this experience, because most of my friends, certainly everybody I've dated, hates this about me, because I'm not much of a phone person. Like, I see the phone as a means to an end. It's a tool to schedule conversations in person. So
Yep.
I tend to text more than I call. And when I call, I tend to call briefly and like, hey, how you doing? You sound great. That's great. When can I see you again? But lately, because I've gotten better at talking on the phone and I've had like a couple of hour-long conversations with people, because I'm like, well, this is what I got. And I was, intrinsically, we're sort of the same category. It's not second nature for me to video call anybody. It's not second nature for me to FaceTime or Zoom or Skype somebody. But I've gotten better now at people I normally would talk to on the phone being like, let me hit this video call button instead of the phone call button, just so I can see their face. I've had a few people be like, I wasn't ready to be on video. I'm not presentable. I called one of my friends, actually my ex-fiance from years ago. I called her out of the blue, and all I got was a screen. It was a screen, and there was something, but she had turned all the lights off, and she was like, you got to try this again, because I'm not decent to be on a video call, but I didn't want to not talk to you, so I took the call. Because I never video call her. Like, I mean, I've known her for over 30 years at this point. And like, I don't ever video call her. But this time I finally video called her.
Oh, there we are. We're back.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's another thing I'm learning, because I used to get so frustrated with technology. I used to, like, you get on conference calls and things don't work, or you get on these video webinars and things don't work, and I just get so mad. But now every video call I've been on has had some glitch, because I think all of these software providers are struggling to keep up with all this unprecedented use.
Yeah, but for the most part, we've been having some really good experiences. Most of the time when I've had something bad happen, it's because somebody on there doesn't know what they're doing. Like they have their mic on the computer and they've called in. So you're getting this and then you're trying to say to them, turn your mic off the computer if you're going to use the telephone. And the only weird party I was at a party, a virtual party, and it was on Google Docs. Have you used that?
I have. I'm Google Hangouts and stuff.
Yeah. So
I love Google for a lot of things. I love Google for Googling, but I'm not a Google apps person. So anytime someone sends me Google Doc, Google Sheets, Google Hangout, I immediately go into hives. It just makes sense. No offense, Google, because I love Chrome and I love the whole Google thing. Y'all got everything on Google, but those applications, I'm a Microsoft guy, and I just haven't quite figured out how to get used to all these other Google things.
To the other ones. Well, that was the only virtual thing that I was on where the quality didn't seem quite right. And I don't know if it was the users that were on there, but finally we just gave up because it was too much. What did you say? You're freezing up, blah, 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 blah. It was all of that. So finally we just kind of said, okay, bye, we done now.
Well, that's before this happened. That was always my experience with freeconferencecall.com, those free conference call numbers. Yeah. I've always paid for, I've always had a paid for conference call number because lawyer, I just can't. But even when I went and started my own firm, I'm like, we made a commitment. We were going to pay for a service as opposed to using free service, because you get on those and that's exactly what happens. They don't really deal well with multiple voices. One person starts talking, somebody else gets cut off. What did you say that? Oh, who's talking? Who's it? Oh, and then you're ready to get off the phone. Like, you're like, okay, never mind. This is a horrible meeting. I got to go.
Yeah. Now I'll tell you, this is a true story. Now this is really bad. When we were trying to get up for telehealth, we were quickly talking to vendors. Now telehealth, it's a platform like this, right? You're trying to impress us. And in the middle of him trying to sell us his telehealth platform, the Zoom cut off because he was using the free version that cuts off in 40 minutes.
Oh.
We were like, really? You try to sell us technology and you using the free platform of Zoom instead of the paid one. So the call, it just ended in 40 minutes. So we were like, not a good look.
Let me upgrade my subscription now. No, I'm just kidding. I'm a big believer, like, this is, obviously connecting with you is important to me, but, as you know, I started my new business. I'm doing executive coaching, building these CEO groups and stuff like that. So this is the main way we do a lot of stuff. And I was like, look, if I'm going to do this, especially for the kind of players that I'm working with, like, I'm going to make the investment and get, the quality products and subscriptions I need so I can do what I need to do. But there are people that, they just keep trying to do the free stuff, and that you get what you pay for, right? And if you didn't pay much, then you don't get much in return. I'm sorry to say.
That's right. And when the free versions go bad at the absolute worst moment. So yeah, you're doing the right thing. And I think you're doing this whole coaching thing. You're going to be really great at that. I can see. And, that the coach really can play a big part in people's lives. I still remember when I transitioned, from the whole having a mentor to having a professional coach. Still love him to this day. Actually talked to him this morning. He called me to check in and see what was going on in my world. He still checks in periodically. But when we were actually going through the coaching sessions, and I turned them on to a few friends, changed their lives and everything. So I'm really excited about you being in this space because you're good at it. You're gonna be phenomenal at it, and it's really gonna. I think when we had this conversation about wanting to do something that was positive, that didn't tear people down, but build them up, because we know that law can be that contentious space, and to be, good at it, you have to, sometimes rip other people a new one.
And you know I'm good at that.
And I was gonna say that. I was gonna say, which I've seen you in action, and you're good at that. So when that's needed, you can do it. But to be, at a point in your life where you want to spend more time in this other space, building people up, helping them be the best they can be, tapping into their whole potential and what's going to be their mark on the world, just see it as a great next step for you.
Well, I appreciate that. And I tell you, when we get off of these travel restrictions and things get back to normal, because I definitely want to build a group up in Detroit, because Detroit's home, I'm so blessed to have lived in so many places, and every place I lived, I can say I have people that love and respect and appreciate me, and that I can go back. But there's nothing like going home. Like, there's nothing like going back to Detroit and the people that were there, especially my professional friends and whatever. And so when I get a chance to go back up to Detroit, I definitely want to see if I can get you and some other people like you together and build an advisory group to help people kind of, that are already doing really, really well. Like you, people who are like, I don't even know what number of CEO job. I can't keep track. I'm trying to get CEO off your title. I got some other titles I want to put around.
Don't even start.
We won't go into that in detail, but I will manifest,
That's right,
speak into the universe that CEO is not your limit, because you've done that many, many times. But people who have that potential, that are repeat CEOs, folks who really know how to lead and know how to break the paradigm, to break out of the mold, and to feed each other in a way that actually says, what, we're going to build I don't want to say like a new world order, but there's a new order of leaders that are about to be born. People who are like, I got all this. I got this whole CEO stuff. I got this whole running, and even I got servant leadership. There's a whole nother level of authentic, leadership that people are ready to give to this community and to this world that I don't think we've tapped into yet. And so when I get a chance to come up there again, I am going to be talking to you and everybody I know in Detroit about trying to build that, because Detroit, of all cities, is one of the classic examples. It's a Renaissance city for a reason, because that city has taken every blow you could throw at it and said, we got this.
Yeah, that's right. It's a resilient city. And it seems like every time there's some new crap, there's Detroit, making the headlines and everything. But then we come back, because Detroit is just a resilient city.
It is. It's full of resilient people like you.
Some resilient people here. Yeah. But I tell you now, it can be a rough market, though. You know that, Jamal. We can we're resilient for a reason, because Detroiters will put up their fists and duke it out. So you got to be ready, which I always tell the transplants who come here and everything. It's like, oh my God, Detroit. It's like, oh, you just get with it, get with the flow and everything. Learn it, love it, and get with the flow.
I agree. So as we wrap up this virtual leaders lunch, which, by the way, neither one of us have eaten lunch. I actually had a lunch that's sitting in the microwave, but I got so excited to talk to you that I forgot. So it keeps beeping at me saying, just, your food is ready. Your food is ready.
Yeah.
You got any?
Well, I ate lunch beforehand because I didn't want to actually I didn't want to be distracted if, I had some chicken stuck in my tooth or something. So.
But that's the beauty of this whole experience right now. Everybody is, we're all in this environment where that kind of stuff is happening. Where, we're not eating at our desk, but we're eating at our dining room table, which is also our desk. And, we have on the, you got a little chicken stuck in your teeth because you decided to have fried chicken for lunch because you had some for dinner yesterday and it's right in your refrigerator. Like this is the time when it's okay to do that. So I appreciate that you showed up looking as beautiful and professional as you always do. But I want to give people a chance to have a real authentic experience. I obviously did not do that myself because, again, lunch is in the microwave.
Well, next time we talk, we'll also eat, drink, be merry, and all of that kind of good stuff. But I enjoyed myself.
You got a concluding thought you want to share with the world about how we can continue to get through this crisis together and lead by example?
Well, I think you just gave the concluding thought. We are going to get through this. We're going to get through this. Trouble really doesn't last always. That we're going to get through it. We're going to get through it together. And when we get through it, my prayer is that that we never forget the kinds of things that it took for us to get through it, and that we also start to think about the kind of what next. Like with Detroit right now and the whole disparity of how African Americans are getting sicker and dying. And that's because of lack of access and not being healthy, as healthy to begin with, right? So that's a conversation that I'm telling people that when this is over, I'd love to have that conversation and think about how leaders can start to turn that around, because this is probably one of the worst things that many of us have seen in our lifetime, but something else is going to come.
Yeah.
But when that something else comes, if you don't already have diabetes or hypertension or an immune compromised situation, you're just going to fare better. And I keep wondering how we can get organizations that don't have health as their mission to understand, though, that health in all policies, health in all aspects of life, we got to layer that over absolutely everything, Jamal, because I never met anyone who was sick and dying, and their last words to me was, I wish I had more time to work.
Right.
I wish I had more time to do some of these other things. But then when people are healthy, they don't think about that first until it's being threatened like it is now. So when this is over, that's one of the conversations that I would love to have with other like-minded people. How do we move health up in the conversation and make it a priority, not because we're all losing our health, but because we want to be healthy. We want to focus on wellness, longevity, and things like that. I'm a health person, so my last words was going to be around health. So there you go.
Well, that was perfect, because that's what I want everybody to hear. I mean, at the end of the day, we're facing a public health crisis, and a lot of it is because people didn't take good care of their health in the first place. If we were all healthier, viruses would be less likely to be able to attack us and succeed. So I do think from my perspective, I join you and say amen to your prayer. Like, I hope that we do learn the lesson from this experience. I hope that we do realize that health in all aspects of our body, mind, soul is important. Is really the most important thing we got, because the most important commodity that we have in the world right now is not money, is not even people, it's time. And the only way to enjoy the benefit of time is to be healthy enough to live through it.
That's exactly right. Beautiful. That's right. So when all of that concludes, let's you and I have more conversation about that and find more like-minded people, and maybe that's the next big thing. The next big thing.
You just proved my point. This is exactly why. So I'm talking about, these are the next generation of leaders who are thinking about not just how we get through the day to day or even the next year, but how do we change the whole world in a way that makes sure that we don't have to deal with stuff like this again in the future, that we can actually be helping more people than we are spending our time responding to crises and panic because we didn't take care of people in the first place.
That's right.
So, man, I love talking to you. I always do. And this is why I knew you'd be the perfect one to do the first one of these with. And I could not have been more correct.
I enjoyed it so much, Jamal.
All right, Loretta. So listen, we're going to do another virtual happy hour one of these days soon.
Yeah.
We'll drink a little bit stronger and a little bit longer.
That's right.
Man, you keep taking care of yourself. Keep doing what you're doing. And most importantly, keep being my friend. I love you.
I love you too. Talk to you
later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.